Hello fellow horror collectors, if you don't know, my name is Mike, and in this video I want to give a huge shout out to Sam, Ryan, and Great Wolf Spirit, all asking me to do this video. It's my pleasure to give it to each and every one of you and anyone else that finds any entertainment in this video and watches it. So we're going to be comparing the two Pumpkinhead figures, Syndicate Collectibles and Trick or Treat Studios. We're also going to allocate points in different categories. It's going to be a fun video. I hope you enjoy it. But without further ado, let's slice right into it. Alright everybody, so the first thing I want to talk about, of course, because there's so many in the box collectors out there, but even out of box collectors like myself, we can always appreciate a great packaging design. So that is going to be the first category we're going to talk about. We're going to look at both the boxes, and right here we have Trick or Treat Studios box. I love the front of it. Big ass figure looking awesome through the plastic. I love the little film reel with Pumpkinhead, Demon of Vengeance. Very cool. And on the side here, of course, I love the windows, like a film reel, the dark red, the Scream Greats logo. This, again, Scream Greats is a throwback to the old school figures, the old Movie Maniacs figures, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, and the nostalgia when I look at this box just really hits me in the feels. This brings me back to a time of going to the mall, going to Toys R Us, going with my dad, going toy shopping, looking for all the cool horror figures. This stuff really brings me back. I love all the shots from the actual film in the film reels here. As you can see on the left, a really good shot of the figure there with that awesome blue that's so synonymous with the covers of Pumpkinhead and the posters. Really love this box. This is a top-notch packaging design for me. I really love it, but as much as I love it, a lot of it is really nostalgia tied, but it's still a really awesome looking box. And here, of course, we have Syndicate Collectibles 1/12 scale Pumpkinhead box. The awesome blue. The colors are so bright and vibrant, but yet dark where they need to be. And there's even a little bit of reflectiveness, as you can see, in the Pumpkinhead's face, around his nose, and definitely around his mouth and the chin. The bright orange really pops. I love their logo being down here at the bottom. On the side, it doesn't need to be anything major, just a really awesome ominous looking picture of woods with that dark blue. Really love that. And the back here, just like I talked about in the figure review, I love the simplicity of the back of this. It's not too much. There's not paragraphs you have to read. I love the boy's necklace in the top. Just shows their love, appreciation, and knowledge for this character, the IP. I feel like they're treating it right. Really like the look of this box. It looks like a box where if I didn't know what this was, or if I didn't know that this existed and I said, oh my god, a Pumpkinhead figure, I would pull this off the shelf instantly. And us collectors, we always love our window boxes with the opening flap, of course, to reveal the amazing figure that's inside. Well, right now it just happens to be the accessories I'm not displaying him with, but either way, on the left here you got possibly the most iconic shot of the entire film, Pumpkinhead in the threshold of the broken down church, with one of the greatest quotes, "Nothing can call it off." And that is so true about the Pumpkinhead, the Demon of Vengeance. You open the flap, see an awesome figure, there's great shot. This box is absolutely incredible. I love everything about it. The colors, the design, the simplicity. I love it. I love it so much. And in my honest opinion, both of these boxes are absolutely amazing. Both designs are perfect. Scream Greats for me, though, again, a lot of it is nostalgia ties. And if I'm looking at this through the eyes of collectors that may not have that same nostalgia for this classic old school look, I'm going to have to give it to Syndicate Collectibles for the packaging design. They're going to get the first win here. I love them both, like I said, but I'm going to give it to Syndicate on the box. I really love the colors and the simplicity of it. I think they knocked it out of the park, and I'm going to go ahead and give Syndicate the win for packaging design. But alright, let's get into the real reason we're all here, to take a look at these two amazing Pumpkinhead figures. This one from Trick or Treat Studios on the left, this one from Syndicate Collectibles on the right. Now, the first thing I want to go ahead and take a look at, because it's kind of a no-brainer, but we're going to take a look at articulation. That's going to be the next thing that we're going to be allocating a point to for these figures. Now we're always gonna start with Trick or Treat because this is the one that happened to come in first. If you know anything about the Scream Greats line, they are not known for articulation. They're not built with articulation. I got a whole video on Scream Greats. Check it out on the channel. I'm very proud of that video. This figure, of course, has full rotation, big old ball joints in the shoulders, up and down, side to side, a little bit of action there, and even some swivel action, some little rotation here in the abdomen for Pumpkinhead, as well as some articulation in his head, side to side, and even a little bit of play up and down. But again, Scream Greats figures are not known for articulation, so we're not expecting much articulation there, and that's totally fine. The Syndicate Collectibles figure, however, was made and designed to have tons of articulation. So this guy right here, let's take the cross out of his hand. This is what I display him with. So this figure here actually has 38 points of articulation. Full ball joints in the upper shoulders, the elbows, full, this one doesn't want to work right now, but there is full rotation on the hands. Also, a little seesaw action there on the wrist. Full rotation on the head. The abdomen has actually two joints, one in the upper abdomen and down here in the lower abdomen. Full rotation circles. Of course, knees, even the thighs, the upper thighs. His tail is completely articulated. Seesaw up and down. I got a whole review on this. Articulation all the way through from the feet to the upper feet to the knees. 38 points of articulation on this bad boy right here. So it pretty much goes without saying, if you're familiar with these figures and what they were designed to be, Syndicate Collectibles was always going to get the point for articulation. So Syndicate is going to get another point for articulation, beating out Trick or Treat Studios in this category. Alright, but the next category we're going to go ahead and take a look at is a big one for us collectors. We love our detail and we love our sculpt. Let's take a look at the details and the sculpting of these figures. And again, we're always going to start with Trick or Treat because that's just the one I happen to get first. The sculpt on this figure I think is great. Scream Greats actually it excels in a way that it intentionally has less articulation to not have so many breaks in its design, which leads to amazing sculpts. As you can see, the vein work, the muscles, the bones. Look at the sculpting in this figure, you guys. Look at this. Look at his arm. Look at the sculpt work in his chest, his abdomen. Look at his face, the veins in his head. Look at the sculpt. This is absolutely a spot-on sculpt in my opinion. It looks amazing in the neck and the shoulders. This thing, in my opinion, is expertly sculpted. Look at the back there, the shoulder bones, his rib cage. This sculpt is absolutely incredible on this Trick or Treat Studios figure. Great sculpting there on the Trick or Treat Studios figure. Very top notch. I gotta take my hat off to them for that. But also, not to be outdone, Syndicate Collectibles also has some really great sculpt work, in my opinion, on their Pumpkinhead figure as well. So let's take a closer look at the sculpting of this figure. Of course, the arms, you see his chest and his abdomen. Very good sculpt work. The vein work on this figure is incredible. If you see that, the tail is really nicely sculpted out. Really enjoy that. But in my opinion, where this figure really shines is the head sculpts. And I was talking to someone about this in the comments. The head sculpts is what really knocks this figure out of the park. I think these mandible teeth are done better on this head than on the Tots one. This figure really excels, in my opinion, in his head sculpts. Not that the body sculpt, the abdomen, the back, none of this is bad. This is all great sculpt work. From the arms to the back of the head to the back to the bones to the shoulder blades. I think it's all really well done. But again, this figure, in my opinion, definitely shines in its head sculpts. These head sculpts are out of this world, and I think they beat out Tots in the head sculpt. And that is absolutely incredible. But that is not to say that Syndicate is going to get the point, because I really do think that Tots has a better body sculpt, leg sculpt, arm sculpt, everything except the head. I think Tots excels from the neck down, where Syndicate really excels in the head sculpt. So as far as who has the better sculpt and who do we award this point to, I'm going to go ahead and give them each a point. They're going to tie in the sculpting department, at least in my opinion. All right, the next category we're going to go ahead and take a look at and we're going to allocate a point to is going to come from skin tone. Now, skin tone has always been something very tricky to get right with Pumpkinhead figures. And the very few figures that we got that predates these two that we have here, they were always way off in their skin tone. And these two really came correct and did a great job. Now, if you look at pictures of Pumpkinhead, either from the film or behind the scenes, there is a lot of colors that go into making Pumpkinhead. There's a lot of browns, a lot of tans, a lot of reds, purples, little tiny hints of blues, and a lot of things come together to really make his skin tone accurate. So again, we're going to start with the Trick or Treat Studios figure here. His skin tone, I think, is very, very well done. As you can see, it's a nice blend of tans, browns, reds. Very, very good mixture here, and he darkens in the upper torso and neck, which is accurate to Pumpkinhead. Very, very good coloring here. As you can see, this is where the reds and the purples kind of come in. Very, very, very good coloring on this figure. His veins are not too bright. If you look at Pumpkinhead, you can definitely see his veins, but his veins were more noticeable in his head and his arms than they ever were in his legs or his feet or anything like that. If you go look at the original Pumpkinhead suit from the 1988 film, the skin tone on this guy is really well done. I think it's a little bit heavy on the red, and I said this in my review, a little heavy on the red in the face and up here, little bit heavy on the red, but also the camera makes this look darker than it actually is. But overall, they got a bunch of colors here, and I think it's an expert job in skin tone for Pumpkinhead for sure. But Syndicate Collectibles Pumpkinhead also has a very, very well done skin tone. And again, we're going to take a closer look at this Pumpkinhead. You can see another amalgamation of colors, the browns, the tans, the blues, the purples in his head. And again, the head sculpt is what really shines. He does have purple on the sides of his heads, and I think that's really good. But if you take a look here, it looks like it's just a lot of blotches of, like, you know, that purple over that tan. It's not bad by any means, don't get me wrong. Oh, I just popped his head off. Oh my god, I killed the Pumpkinhead. They said it couldn't be done. So it's not, I guess it's not bad by any means, but in comparison to the Trick or Treat one, it looks like they blended their colors better on his head, and honestly, even his whole body. As much as I love this vein work on this Syndicate Collectibles figure, his veins being that blue and that noticeable, it's not as accurate to the film as the Trick or Treat Studios one is. Now, don't get me wrong, both of these skin tones are very well done. But in my opinion, you know, the 100 times I've watched that movie and the hundreds of behind-the-scenes photos I've watched and documentaries, I truly believe that Trick or Treat Studios gets the win for skin tone. They're both very good, but I think Trick or Treat pulls them out and beats them in skin tone, in my opinion. All right, the next category I want to talk about is scale and presence. Now, the only reason I put the word presence in this is because both of these figures are very striking, but one more so than the other just has a presence about it, and when you have it on your shelf, it just draws your eyes to it. And it happened with my kids, with my wife. I had both of them on the shelf opposite one another, and as soon as they walked in the room, they were drawn to that piece, and they were like, they just talked about that one. It has a presence to it, and of course, a scale. But shout out to Ryan, because we were talking on Instagram about how these two figures scale with other figures. In particular, NECA figures. So I got a Colonial Marine, I got a couple NECA Ultimates, and we're going to see how they scale in comparison to these two figures and which one I think scales better than the other. So I took a couple volunteers from my shelf, and let's go ahead and start with this hero right here. We have Craig Windrix, of course, if you know the story. You know, I wanted to have this figure in the video because I think he deserves respect. He's a true hero, and God bless him. So Let's go ahead and put Mr. Windrix right there with that Pumpkinhead figure. Look at the size difference. Look at that monstrosity. Just tower over that Colonial Marine right there. Pumpkinhead in the movie, I think, was between 8, 9 feet tall, something like that. But I know it depends on who summons the Pumpkinhead, and his height kind of varied throughout the movies and whatnot. But that's absolutely incredible right there. Let's go ahead and move Mr. Windrix over here to the Syndicate Collectibles figure. Now, again, I don't think that's a bad scale. I don't think it's a bad scale at all. But he definitely, this Pumpkinhead Syndicate, in my opinion, does not look as menacing or as towering in comparison scales. Now, granted, we could tweak his joints and he will stand a little bit taller. This guy at max height, I guess I misspoke in my review, he's about 9 inches. This bad boy's about 10.5. So again, doesn't scale bad at all, but I'm really digging how he looks with this figure right here, the Trick or Treat Studios. Let's go ahead and bring another figure in here for scale's sake. Now, this is a NECA Ultimate and a fucking showdown that I would love to see, and I think we'd all nerd out over this. Let's go ahead and put Ash with Pumpkinhead right there and see how that looks. Look at that shit. Look at the size of that figure. Again, he scales very well with Ultimates, and he scales very well with the Syndicate Collectibles as well. The Trick or Treat Studios Pumpkinhead will really stand out if you have him amongst your other horror slashers or horror monsters on your shelf, and he will look really cool standing atop the rest of them like the monstrosity monster that he honestly should be, as we put him with this Michael Myers right here, as you can see. Michael Myers comes in almost as tall as the Syndicate Pumpkinhead. Again, he would be a little taller at full extension, so maybe he'd be like down to here or so. But as you can see, I really truly think that they scale a lot better with the Trick or Treat Studios Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead is a massive creature. He should be scary and have a presence and just be over-dawning over other characters. And I think this figure does it very, very well. I'm going to give Trick or Treat Studios the point for scale and presence. This just draws your eyes to it when it's on your shelf. It's an amazing figure. They both are. But for scale, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Trick or Treat Studios. All right, but the last category we have up for the comparison for the two Pumpkinhead figures is going to be display ability. Now, this one I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to the point where I had to remake the image 3 to 4 times. Personally, for me, display ability is just how well they display and what can you do with the display. And is it easy to display? Do they look good on display? Things of that nature. I'll tell you right now, both of these figures look awesome on display. We've already talked about this one. The Trick or Treat Studios just has a presence about it. It catches your eye, and it's just beautiful. This figure is super awesome. Syndicate Collectibles did a great job. And in terms of articulation and display ability, it has 38 points of articulation. It has an alternate hand, it has 2 different head sculpts and an accessory, and you can pose him in any way you want. So in terms of display ability, how can this figure not be at the top of the list? I mean, you can put him in any position you want, multiple heads, it's insane. But the Trick or Treat Studios one, because of its presence and how easy it is to display, its display ability is super easy. As you can see here, it comes with this really awesome Scream Greats base right here. Perfectly sized pegs, not like those little cheap fuckers when your figures fall over constantly. Like right there, you see? Those guys are on stands and they fall all the goddamn time. So, you know what I'm saying? So, the display ability on the Trick or Treat Pumpkinhead is so easy and so simple and looks so well. I mean, look at that. Boom. It's done. It'll never fall over and it looks great. So they're both amazing at display ability purposes in their own way. So to give one or the other, it was very hard for me to do. So I'm going to go ahead and give them both a point. Trick or Treat Studios, 1 point. Syndicate Collectibles, 1 point. They both have great display ability and look awesome on your shelf. And there you have it, everybody. That was a close-up comparison for both brand new Pumpkinhead action figures. One from Trick or Treat Studios, one from Syndicate Collectibles, also with a fun little twist of allocating points to which figure I felt like really shined in its respective categories. As you look here, we of course ended with 4 points each. That was not done by design, but I guess in the back of my mind, I do agree with the chart here, because at the end of the day, I love both of these figures equal. I think they both shine in their own rights, so I'm going to call this a tie. That's the winner. The winner is a tie. But hear me out. Before you destroy me in the comments that I can't end this on a tie, hear me out. If it's good enough for Freddy versus Jason and they can end without a winner, then so can I. But in all seriousness though, I'm sure there's a good chance that you disagree with some of the points that I made, or maybe you have a standout favorite between these two figures. And I want to know all of that down in the comment section below. Let me know which figure is your favorite, what you think should win in each respected category, all of that good stuff. Let's get some conversation flowing. But here's the thing. I think both of these figures are amazing. I love them equal. And not only do I believe they can exist in the same space, in the same market, but even the same collection. So let me know which one you're going to get, or you're going to be like me and end up getting them both. Thank you all so much for watching. It means more to me than you'll ever know. But one last time, my name is Mike, and this is my design.